Hello everybody, my name is Kleika from the Iron Pulse outfit, and this is another episode of Woodman Live. And I have some pretty great guests with me today. We have from the TR on Woodman, or specifically from the Elementary outfit, ALongStory. We have from the FFS on the NC side, Dextro, who was here in last episode, because apparently the NC doesn't have a lot of people who are good at talking in radio shows. And from the VS on Woodman representing, we have Map Blitzkrieg. So, let's just get you guys introduced. ALongStory, you have 10 seconds to introduce yourself and your outfit to the masses out there. Go!
Hi, I'm ALongStory. Belong to Elementary, and we just play for fun.
That was a short but very sweet introduction. Again, we have Dextro. You've done it last week, so now you know how to do a proper introduction. Your 10 seconds now.
Hopefully, I'm Dextro from the 151st Freedom Fighters. And see on Woodman.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. The shortest of introductions. The man knows how to make an impact. And here we have someone who will probably fill all of the 10 seconds. Blitzkrieg from MAP. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Blitzkrieg, military commander of MAP. We've been around since 2003, back on Werner, so we've been here a long time.
And now he's on Woodman with his outfit. Now, people, we have some good topics, I think, that we can cover today. For the last few weeks, some things happened to Woodman. For example, we're not the recommended server anymore. That honor has been bestowed upon the crowning jewel of Planetside, aka Miller. And some other things have been happening. We have an ESF update that's soon to be coming out in the future. And in general, things have been looking up, I would say, for all servers and the game a little bit. At least that's my own interpretation of what is happening. But let's go into the recommended server status, because this also leads into something we've talked about every single week now, because it is still on everyone's mind. Population of the Woodman server. I'm just going to throw this out there. I have over this weekend seen, for the first time in a long time, proper populations. I think it was because of the double XP weekend. Now that it ended, I've seen some Vanu overpopulation again. Do you guys think that this is going to just keep staying like this, or now that we're not the recommended server anymore, it might actually slowly fade away? Dextro, you just, throw your head in, and we start from there.
I mean, it's hard to say, but I guess it will change soon. I mean, it always was that some faction was higher populated than others, and now it's the venue for quite a long time now, but I think it's probably going to turn around as well. And hopefully before we becoming the recommended server the next time, it's been balanced out.
I don't think it will change. I think when you've got outfits like IP and KOTV, their organisation just dominates the server at the moment. When they're pulling in lots and lots of the new Vanu players and teaching them how to play so quickly and so organisedly, you're just creating a reoccurring problem which just won't change till the other factions basically produce similar outfits that can pump out players which learn to play very quickly and basically cert farm very quickly and get up the ranks.
Personally, I disagree a bit on that. I mean, you do have a very good point upon that, and yeah, that's quite a good thought. Personally, I mean, the population goes up and down, and I'm sure some of you might remember, I know I do, a few months ago we were struggling to get about a 24% global population every night, for about a month at least solid, and we were constantly warp gate, we were struggling, and and it was absolute hell from our side. But as Dextro said, all the factions get this, so I mean, I guess it's just the Vanu's turn to have it in their favour. But I do reckon that when they might bring something out, or they might change or nerf or buff whatever, the population or the fourth faction will disappear, will decrease on the Vanu side a bit, I reckon.
But isn't a big problem right now that ever since the introduction of the alerts, you now have something, I'm just going to call it a winning state? I mean, we all know it's not true, but there is a thing that you could say is a win that you can achieve now. Isn't that the problem, though? Because people are seeing or are hearing about all those Vanu alerts, it doesn't matter how they get the victories, but they get them.
I think in the first place, it's the problem, which was kind of the biggest mistake they ever made, is allowing people having multiple faction characters on the same server without any regression or without any limitation on it. Because you now sometimes you see that people, before the alert is over and it seems like Vanu are winning, there are a lot of people switching from the other faction to the VS to get the points, and that's a thing which shouldn't happen. I think players pick, or usually the players in outfits, they pick a side and they stay with the side. So I agree partly with ALongStory, what he said previously. Outfits keep the players on their faction and keep them in the game, but on the other hand, you're not going to grab every player into your outfit. There's still a huge amount of players who are never going to get organized in an outfit. I think they should at least do something like that you have a limitation on swapping your characters, like a 2-hour penalty to swap to another faction character on the same server. I think that would get people more to their side and represent the side, because I never would play any other side than NC.
It was actually introduced only later that you could have characters on the same server. They actually started out with the inability of that. So it must have been something the community wanted, and now the community wants it gone again, I guess?
Yeah, but I don't think it is necessary that. I don't think you'll find the pop at the beginning of Alert Arises. It's towards the end when it's a guaranteed Vanu victory. I don't think they win because of 4 factioners necessarily. When it was the Zoimax, I think you did have a lot of people playing the Zoimax for fun because it just was an I win weapon. Now I don't think it is anymore. I think it's roughly balanced. But now I just find that it's the organisation of the VS. It really is. I don't think it's down to just pop. It's just down to organisation that they put a load of people in one place at one time, which the other factions can't seem to do.
But I mean, other sites are organised as well. I mean, when I'm looking at the NC side, I see a lot of outfits, a lot of organised outfits, new and old ones. So we are organised in a way as well.
But I just don't see the same effect when KOTV and IP and map and Vanu drop on a site or on a hex. You know they've dropped. Everyone on command channel knows they dropped instantly. You see like 6, 7, 8 full galaxies, platoons of people dropping on a biolab or a tech plant or whatever, and everyone knows either we get all of our forces, all of our platoons to that point, or we're just going to lose it instantly. And I don't see that from NC or even TR. I don't see, TR dropping 4 or 5 platoons onto a point to take it.
The only time I do see that is normally from Smurfs. I do see it from FFS, here and there, but Smurfs would be the big one from the NC that if they come in force, they come there to win. They come with a huge number. But I mean, in terms of organisation, I mean, I don't know what always goes on the NC and the TR. I mean, I do have an old member, an old friend of ours, who is actually playing TR on Woodman, and he does tell me hit things here and there. He reckons there just isn't the coordination as there is on the VS side. But I mean, in terms of coordination on our command channel, it's sometimes it's absolutely rock silent, and all it takes is drop of a pin, and people will really start going to work. I mean, sometimes people do work very, very well together, and sometimes it's just an absolute mess, and people just have to go with their outfit and go with what they think's best. It's not always sunshine and lollipops in our command channel.
But what's the secret to the good communication yet? Because, for example, the Vanu on Woodman are not really doing anything special. They're just kind of talking to each other. So why is the secret to talking to each other to talk to each other, and what is so hard to get it done?
Well, in fact, that probably is the secret. You just have to talk to each other. I mean, originally when it was first released, and I obviously certed myself out to get into that command channel so I can communicate with others. For the first, month, there was barely any talking. The only people communicating was actually myself and Serpentini from Iron Pulse, and we actually started to, work as a unit And it was just from there on, more and more started to get involved with talking to us, talking to others, explain what they were doing, what they wanted to do, and what would be the best. And as soon as the conversation started occurring between the outfits, I noticed that we were becoming more and more effective.
Well, but I can't see that, I mean, if it was 1 or 2 people on the Vanu side, then obviously with the mass of players on all factions, there must have been these 1 or 2 or however many people on the TR and the NC side. So, ALongStory, Dextro, where are these people?
I think from the TR side, we're just lacking the number of people in an organised outfit. I can talk about from my perspective, we can pull maybe a platoon. We can put a platoon out easily of elementary. Previously, we could only do 2 squads of elementary, and now with elementary B, which is the no requirements outfit, there's basically anyone can join it. There's no limitation. We can put together a full platoon easily every night. But I think a lot of the well-known established TR outfits really can't put together a platoon, 2 platoons of dedicated players every night, which it seems the VS can all the time.
Yeah, how's that for FFS then, Dextro?
I mean, during operations, we easily get between 1.5 and 2 platoons together. And outside of that, we get easily in the evenings, we get platoon easily together as well. So, I mean, we got the numbers. I think in general, it's at least on the NC side, there's the will to communicate more, and we're working on it. Everyone, and at least we are from FFS side, we are pushing our leaders to do it, and it will change. I think it's just a thing which went quite obvious. The Vanu domination started even before the overpopulation. It was quite obvious that they're working better together. And the overpopulation just increased this effect, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the other factions will go their way. I mean, the NC side has a lot of good and decent-sized outfits, and there's no reason why we couldn't encounter this effectively. And if you don't see 2 platoons dropping at the same point, that's probably for the reason that we may, or at least think, we play a bit smarter and dropping them around you and coming from every direction than dropping on 1 point. Yeah, but I think every faction will necessarily go there.
But please.
I don't see a real problem with it. I mean, I like fights, and if KOTV is tossing 2 platoons at me, I feel challenged, and I'm going to do my best to at least hold them off and having a good fight. So, and I think all the factions will work their way in the end towards more coordination.
So what kind of steps are being taken, I mean, by the NC and the TR that you guys noticed or maybe even initiated yourself to get this coordination going, not just of established outfits, but also of new players? Like on the TR side. Well, I mean, there's a lot of new players that came into the game. I mean, we're not the recommended server anymore, but there's still new players, and some of them are still playing or are still, like, starting new characters. I mean, we all know that on the Vanu side, KOTV is basically taking care of a lot of these new players and giving them a home and showing them how things are done and getting them into platoons. What's being done on the TR and the NC side? Like, I think ALongStory said something about having a no requirements outfit.
Yeah, that's why I set up. I personally set up. I was just, when the Woodman went recommended, I just saw all these new players coming in, and they play for a bit and then they quickly leave. We started inviting them into the main outfit, but it wasn't the right environment for them because they're asking too many questions. Not too many. They're asking reasonable questions, but questions which you can't get the higher levels to expect to non-stop answer. So I wanted to try and set up a separate outfit in which we could try and develop players quickly, like 10, 15 guys, and then let them answer the newer players, and sort of, pyramid scheme, as it were. So that's what we did. We're at 400 members now, and we get average maybe a platoon of like 60 guys online most evenings. So, and I'm constantly trying to get the new players into it. For me, it's not about pushing them into elementary or pushing them, keeping them at elementary, be like bringing them up to a certain level. So, they get to level 30, battle rank 30, and they know how to play the game, they know how to follow orders, and then they can go off and play in any outfit or set up their own outfit. It doesn't matter to me. It's just about keeping them entertained within TR on Woodman, because if we start losing those players, then, the other TR is going to start dying, really, because we need new players, because people do leave the game for different reasons, so we still need to keep bringing in new players and, getting them up the battle ranks, as it were.
A long story. This is something that I do. I mean, anyone who knows me, obviously I talk a fuck ton, but what I do is when I get a new recruit, I'm sure I don't get the same volume because, we're quite small. Myriad Apocalypse Project. But when I get a new recruit, I will sit in there in a channel and I will talk with him. And then towards the end of, like a little interview, I'll ask if he has any questions. And I will say, especially if they're new to the game, I'll ask if he has any questions about the game or the faction. And sometimes I've had people sitting there for about 30 minutes solid, asking me questions, and I'll sit there and happily answer as many questions as I can to help him, so his comfort zone is a lot better with the game, and and so he knows what he's doing and he's happy to be there. So a lot of questions are cleared up, and that's what I do, and it hopefully it makes them feel a bit more comfortable with entering the game.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. 1v1, one-on-one if you can do it. But just I think the volume of new players at this moment in time, I just don't think we can do it. We just TR especially just needs to try and teach as many players as possible just to follow the waypoint at the moment, and then just sort of answer questions as they're going along.
I can understand, as I said, we're a bit smaller, so I have that chance to be able to one-on-one with people. But if it's possible, if you can do it, that's what I'd recommend personally.
Does the FFS do this kind of newbie program, Dextro?
We've always been recruiting, and our only requirements are not in-game related or related to voice communications. So people can join the service, have a microphone and stuff like that. We always had, since ages, have run a training program which expanded itself. So we got a basic training which is teaching the people the basics of the game and the basic of our outfit structure, what they need to know. And then we have advanced trainings to get them out on the upper standard of parts of our outfit, or at least on the standard we want our outfit to be, or we are, and we bring them up to the standard. So we got a lot of training programs which feature question and answer rounds as well. So we take care of the people who join us. We train them to fit into our outfit, and I think other outfits on the NC side probably do as well. I think you as an outfit you can't allow yourself to be picky on which person you recruit. The only thing which matters for us is the commitment the players are willing to show for our outfit, and when they want to commit to our rules and our outfit structure, we are happy to teach them everything they need to become 151st soldier. So you have to take care of the new people, and you always have to recruit them, and that's what we do.
So is this something? It's always so hard to think of more outfits in all of the factions. It's like, is it just me, or is there a specific, very core formation of outfits for all of the factions? But then when you look at the leaderboards, there are so many more outfits, but you never see or hear anything about them. Is there just like a seclusion going on? Are there just a lot of outfits that actually have a substantial number of members that just do their own thing?
I reckon there are, because before we were looking through, trying to find ourselves, we were trying to find someone from the NC to talk to, and it wasn't just the NC. I was looking through the list of names, and I was thinking, blimey, I don't know hardly any of these outfits. I know the sort of the big, the outfits. I mean, they don't even have to be physically big. I mean, map isn't exactly physically big, but we seem to hopefully we get our name out there. But I see some names that they're not physically big, but I see them around a lot, and there are some which there was you saw it, Clyker. There was an outfit we were sitting there going, blimey, diggity, they've got a massive amount of players, but we've never seen them.
I think there comes the point in that a lot of outfits don't get rid of inactive members and then they appear really big, but the activity ratio is quite low. I think there are still some ghost outfits around which are practically not existing anymore, but still holding hundreds of people who just quit the game. I think the only looking at the size gives you a false impression, I think, often, and I think you're more likely not going to recognize them if they run alone. So maybe if they're not organized, they got no officer around, you're more likely not going to recognize that they even exist as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
For me, it makes a difference if I'm facing a squad of another outfit or I face a squad of people from different outfits. When there are multiple outfit tags, I'm more likely not going to remember them. But if they're a squad of IP guys rushing my position, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, IP, great fight, awesome.
Yeah, I always try to find outfits to that we can get a good fight out of. I mean, FFS is always a good one, not just because you've got very good members who you have some exceptionally good shots, but also I have 2 friends of mine that I used to play EVE Online within your roster, which I always enjoy killing them.
Well, I guess it's always good to see that there are proper, outfit relations even between the different factions. I mean, which is very important because we should never forget that we're all playing a game together. I mean, even if we're kind of competing, but it's not like we're actually trying to kill each other or destroy each other's lives. At least I don't think you guys are. But one thing that I have noticed a lot is that there's, of course, a rather large resentment from the other factions, but also from people in the Vanu faction against the Vanu. Because of the overpop, because of things are currently running, maybe because of other things, but I guess it's mostly that. Would you guys say that there is really starting to be kind of a big, like a chasm between the different factions? Or are we actually still on pretty good terms with each other? Because before we had the huge influx of people, we were talking to each other, we were like organizing events to play on the other outfits and so on. Nowadays, we kind of have the alerts, and then maybe after an alert, if it was a hard fought one, someone makes like a Reddit thread about it. But there's a lot of bitching, a lot of haha, we showed you so, or haha, we are the best. What is going on with Woodman? Like, how is the current Woodman atmosphere? Just gonna say a long story. You start off.
I don't know. I find it quite pleasant. There's a lot of younger players, I'd call them, shouting on Yale different things, and there's some bitter players. I don't know. Let's call them poisoned players, if that references anyone in particular. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's okay. I have utmost respect for anyone who plays the game. At the end, it's just a game, and whoever plays whatever faction doesn't matter. It's how you play. Sometimes when obviously we had the Zoe Max that drawed a lot of players in, and I think that created a bit of resentment towards the Vanu. That everywhere you went there was 100 Zoe Maxes somewhere, and TR, probably NC also just didn't have a chance. But generally speaking, I don't have a problem with any VS. In fact, I'm quite envious of your ability to create really well organised outfits, and I think it comes from the fact that you just didn't have the pop at one stage, and you just really developed a bit of a machine, in my opinion.
Something I'd just like to know from TR and also from NC, I mean, how many of your outfits date back to Planetside 1? Because I know my outfit does, and so does Iron Pulse, in fact. It was one of the reasons we even came here, because we knew Iron Pulse and we didn't want to go to Miller. So I was just wondering how many of you guys got many veteran outfits. This is something that I wondered.
Personally speaking, I don't know anyone from... I know several guys who've played on Planetside 1, but I don't know any outfits that have played. I know there's outfits which have a gaming community from different games, but I don't know any that have played on Planetside 1.
Dextro?
Yeah, we're just a product out of the Planetside 2 beta, so we got some veteran Planetside 1 players, but I personally never played. I didn't even knew that this game existed anyway. But I don't know about other outfits, but as far as I know, I think there are pretty much been created in the beta, most of them. I think majority are new outfits, Planetside 2 specific outfits, or multigaming outfits who then have a Planetside 2 division.
Okay, yeah, didn't want to change the topic too much, was just wondering.
Well, to be fair, it is a very important thing. I mean, we all know that, for example, Miller has a rich history of outfits from Planetside 1, so there's obviously grudges or friendships or whatever being taken into the new game. Well, we on Woodman, we pretty much most of us all started out very, very fresh, so we've only been hanging out together ever since we started playing on the server. But I'd like to hear that Woodman apparently has a pretty good atmosphere about it. I mean, that's always nice to hear.
The atmosphere between leaders, I feel, was actually pretty good. I mean, I received messages from people like DJ Stacy, the leader of EDL. I mean, I've received some off Tact, and there's always fun banter that goes around between. I've never felt any of the leaders from other factions have ever been aggressive towards myself or my outfit. There's always a bit of banter. I mean, obviously between individual players, especially probably the younger crowd, you get the little COD atmosphere where people start shouting, and did make me laugh. You see people sort of spouting stuff about the factions and how loyal they are, and they've probably been playing about a week. Where to myself, who's been playing Vanu since 2003. I've been here a very long time, so it does make me laugh, seeing people like that sort of. But a lot of the time, you get these sort of interfactional banter, which is always great, but some people do take it too far. But as far as I'm aware, on an outfit and leadership level, it doesn't exist. It's always good. It's always a nice vibe.
I agree. I mean, these kind of things right here wouldn't work if we didn't have good connections going on. But how important is it really to have good connections between the factions on a server? I mean, can a server run completely on rivalry, or do we have to be this friendly with each other? Dextro.
I mean, we don't have to be, I guess, but it's definitely better the way it is. I think it's a nice, friendly atmosphere with a bit of competition, and you always are excited if you see an outfit you recognize and your forces meet on the battlefield and you can compete a bit with them. I think it's good having a nice atmosphere, and there will always going to be a bit of grief between several outfits, but usually if they can work it out, I think the general atmosphere is really good on the server, and there's not really any tension between the outfits. I mean, we are all dependent on each other. If there's no opposite side, no opposite outfits, we won't get a good fight, and we will lose the interest in the game. So it's important for all of us that Woodman is a nice server with friendly, competitive atmosphere, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, ALongStory, things about the TR. Obviously, the TR has been playing a bit of the underdog role in the last few weeks, having most of the times the lowest population. But you guys have pulled off some really, really good alert victories, and in general have been trying to step your game off, like recruiting new people, getting coordination going, and so on. What's the current state of the TR? In your own words?
I think we just need many more new players, really. We just need to boost the populations up for both TR and NC. I think it's going to take a while till you get sort of people pushing up the battle ranks, till you get them at 30, 40, and they're sort of committed to the game. But we just need more players, basically, if we're ever going to. I think organisation on a constant level, like Indar alert, we can do it. We've won a few, we've drawn a few. NC have taken it off both of TR and VS. But I think if we're doing multi-continent alerts, tech plants, AMP stations, biolabs, we're just going to really need, a bigger pot to do that, of more experienced battle ranks. If that makes sense. And I think that's down to SOE. SOE need to do recruitment on a server for only a faction or two factions, whatever is the underpopped faction. We become recommended server for, TR instead of recommended server. More and more VS are joining, which it's fine. People play VS, but it's just too much. We need just specifically more TR, more NC on the server to actually boost the dedicated player base for both of those factions. In my opinion.
So let's talk about something real quick. There has been a change in the past to the Burster Maxis. The Skyguard has been buffed, and we also know that in the future there's going to be an ESF update. But before we go to the ESF update, let's talk about the changed anti-air game. Not only are Bursters, because they're Maxes, the resource cost has been raised quite a bit, so Burster Maxes are kind of harder to pull now, but again, they're not as amazingly accurate as they were before, where you could literally snipe a Liberator hovering like 800 meters away from you. How has this changed the air game on our server and in general? Blitzkrieg, what do you think?
With bursters, if they had only changed bursters and left it at that, you could say they would have made AA far, not nowhere near as effective. However, because they buffed the Skyguard, so in other words, they just swapped roles. The air game feels pretty much the same. I'm happy that the Skyguard will become the superior, or has become the superior AA, because I've always felt, even from beta, that it should have been the superior AA, because I have no clue why the Burster Max was ridiculously more powerful than the Skyguard. It was beyond my words, and I always wanted the Skyguard to be the better one, because it doesn't make sense that the very small mobile Max that can hide quite well is the far more powerful one, where the very large target, especially from the air, because it's quite, even though it's flat, it's quite broad, you can hit that easily with a Scythe or a Mosquito or a Reaver, and it could barely defend itself because it would be rocket podded to death in seconds. So I'm glad that the bigger target is now the more powerful target.
So what else do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Sorry, Dextro, you go first.
I think it's pushing the combination of arms back into the game. Previously it was you could cover everything with infantry easily, and now it's going to get difficult with infantry to cover yourself effectively from air, and Skyguards are more valuable now. I think it's just a good thing, and it's totally reasonable. Come on. The Skyguard should be more powerful than the small mech suit anyway. So I think it was a reasonable change, and I think from balancing side it changed nothing for the air, but it makes the game more understandable.
I agree with what Blitzkrieg said, that I've flown a Mozzie the past few days, well, not quite a bit, a couple of hours, and it's Max is now, I feel they're being pulled a lot less, which helps to sort of weaken the effect they have. But I think the level they're at the moment is really good. Skyguards now are just ridiculously strong. Not necessarily against ESFs, because they sort of have trouble tracking ESFs, I find. But against Liberators and Gals even. Now, the other day we were flying across a base which had two Skyguards over it at 1,000 meters. We were getting pounded by two Skyguards. We were sealing. We couldn't understand it. We thought it was something dodge, but then someone went down and had a look. It was two Skyguards, and they were hitting us at 1,000 meters, and they were tracking us perfectly. Obviously, in a Gal, it's very hard to do evasive maneuvers. So we almost went to red based on two Skyguards at 1,000 meters. So I think Skyguards are way too OP again. My humble opinion, of course.
Well, that's a fair opinion. Personally, I think Skyguards are. I'm not a huge pilot. I do fly here and there, and they do shred you. But it's because they're the larger target. You can see them a lot easier, and you can get out before they really strike you, compared to the bursters, where they can hide between a couple of rocks and they just surprise you and rip you a new one. But I wouldn't quite call them overpowered. But then again, the whole air anti-air versus air. The anti-air is very, very strong as it stands. OP. I'm not sure if I'd classify it as completely OP, but it's I'd agree it's strong.
But I mean, this forces you then as an outfit to play smarter and combine your arms together. I mean, and it's like Sky Gods are easier to kill, so send infantry or tanks for the Sky Gods, and once you've taken them out, send the AA in and bombard whatever is left. I think it's just making... I don't see that they're really OP. You can easily track them down and kill them. Easier than max suits. I mean, max suits, find the burster max suit, good luck, you can spend an hour finding them. Probably, I think it's Sky Gods are easy targets compared to max suits, so I think they should be more powerful. And I think the air is always the topic. I think it's always the thing which is hard to balance, because I think it's really easy to make the air OP and then destroying the fun for everybody on the ground. So I don't mind if the air is a bit challenging. I'm not a pilot, so it doesn't bother me really, but I think air should be a challenge, and I think you rarely see a lot of good coordination in air going on. You always see coordinated ground forces, but the air seems always being a bit zergy, so there's a lot of potential for the air getting more organized and getting better and then becoming more effective. It's just nobody invests time into it, as it seems like. So there's definitely some potential in the air still left, where you can succeed with better coordination.
So, I mean, this was something that I've noticed, that a lot of the attitudes of people, they always think that they have to be able to 1v1 something in that regard, which I've never always quite understood, because it's a team game. I mean, back in the days of Planetside 1, you wouldn't dare try and fly in a load of Reavers or Mosquitoes or Liberators if they had either a load of aircraft or Sky Guards. You wouldn't do it. You would wait till they were wiped out by ground forces before you sent in the air. And if there weren't any AA, you would have sort of wings and Liberators flying over doing full bombing runs, but I can tell you within 20 seconds of that they would be swamped by Mosquitoes and Reavers, which it was one of those things that instead of it was all about it has to be able to 1v1 it, it was all about they have to remove them first. It shouldn't be that the aircraft is knocking out the anti-air. The anti-air should be killing the aircraft, because that's its real design. Where a lot of people think, oh, well, my Reaver should be able to charge a max suit in the face while it's got dual bursters and kill it. Well, no, it's got anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah, but I think that's a symptom the players today have, and especially in free-to-play games where the developers are more connected to the fan base and there are more frequent patches. I think... at least I, myself, whenever there's some change and people say something is OP, I always say no. You're just not handling the situation right. You should first look, what can you do better? How can you encounter it more effectively than just blaming it's OP? I think this is the way you should deal with the situations. Complaining won't get you far. You should analyze what can you do better to encounter more effectively and then work on it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this was just before they buffed all the bursters and the Sky Guards. We were situated just north of the Crown with my guys. I had about 2 squads, and we noticed there was so much anti-air, and obviously everyone was complaining about how weak source the anti-air was. And I sat there with about 6 Sky Guards and about 12 plus burster units, at least with that. And whenever the... I can't remember who it was. It might have been the TR that owned the Northern Warp Gate. As soon as they came across, they were cut to pieces because we had so much anti-air. And, this is where people go, oh, well, they can't kill anything. It's like, well, if you bring enough of it, you can kill whatever. I mean, if you bring, 100 guys with a beamer, you'll drop stuff very quickly, but it doesn't mean the beamer's any good. But, it's one of those things. More numbers is bringing up more power, but sometimes that... some pieces of equipment or vehicles are designed solely to be used in groups rather than their individual power being super strong.
Yeah, but I think the main problem with AA Maxes and even Sky Guards is not the fact that defend against the ground troops. It's that they disrupt any air game whatsoever. It basically denied, it used to, now it's changed obviously with Maxes, they used to deny air even flying over a base. So you basically, the Crown especially was a nightmare. You just have AA Maxes on the platforms and they deny air over, even flying over. I don't mean attacking, I mean they deny pretty much air over the AMP station, over Crossroads, over TI. I had stuff hitting me from Crown all the way when I was over in the Biolab. So that is when I think that it's not necessarily doing its job to defend a point from an air attack. It's actually disrupting any air influence in another point completely, not even owned by that faction.
I can understand that, but it's just sort of my point was actually back to this was when anti-air wasn't very strong at all. It was completely rubbish. And, this was my point, though. Even though it was completely rubbish, we were pulling stuff out the air completely. It was just one of those things. This was at the point where people were complaining everything was totally weak, because if you pulled one Skyguard and ESF, we'd just sit there tanking you. So it wasn't even disrupting the air gameplay. It's obviously finding and tuning that balance, but obviously I'm not saying that it is balanced. There are obviously many flaws, and you're very right. I mean, being sniped from, 2 to 3 sort of hexes in distance, however big, some of them are, by a Skyguard isn't pleasant.
Yeah, but you can do the same to the enemy, so what is the problem? You just then have to encounter their Skyguards and gain air superiority to use the Air Force.
Yeah, but that's completely... Yeah, but it's not really, is it? The amount of Air Force you need to take out, how it used to be, the amount of air you needed to take out 2 or 3 dedicated burster maxes sat on Crown pad with the turrets manned was just extraordinary amount compared with how much.
But this is the complete one direction. This is the one direction that aircraft should be good against AA and the other way around. No, then just bring other stuff. What should an AMX do to a tank? Nothing. So get a tank, blow the AMX away, and then fly in with the air. I mean, it's all about coordination, and I think there does not have to be a really relationship between what counters what thing. It's just there's something which is effectively countering it. You have the situation that the enemy has AA at some location, and then you pick the tool you need to encounter it effectively to gain air superiority. This game is about combined arms, and only focusing on air to encounter anti-air shouldn't work, in my opinion.
Let's throw something in real quick. Beforehand, before the nerf even, which was done to the actual burster guns of the mechs, obviously, the thing was that the burster mechs was also just the easiest way to respond to something because it was incredibly cheap. It was 100 infantry resources, which pretty much never ran out. So if you were attacked by air, you could basically just go, okay guys, everyone pull a burster max. Everyone pulled them, you cleared the sky, and everyone could do whatever they wanted. Now, they haven't just changed the weapon on the Skyguard and the burster max, but there was also the resource cost. Now, the resource cost of the Lightning is pretty much the same as it was. The resource cost for the Burster Max went up a lot. So, would you guys say that right now, this is my opinion, that the actual anti-air in this game is another ESF and the Skyguard, while the Burster Max in its current form, because it is so expensive, of the most used resource, which is infantry resources, because you need it for everything from C4 to hand grenades to medical injectors, is the Burster Max pretty much just an emergency case AA? And is the Skyguard the proper AA in the game?
No.
Yeah, I think the AA Max still has its use, especially in places where the Skyguard just can't be pulled. Like, give you biolabs, you might have tanks around the bottom of the biolab, but you've still got control of the platforms. You've got no choice but to pull an AMAX, and they work really well. I still think they're really effective. I think they're expensive for what they are now, but I want to see what happens with lock-ons. If it makes lock-ons useless, if lock-ons become a lot less effective, then I think AMAX is going to be expensive and they're going to need to be pulled. But no, I think they're still very useful. Vanu Archives, for instance, last night I noticed there was no AA cover in Vanu Archives. I pulled a Mozzie. I spent 5 minutes just farming basically all the infantry outside, and then went back, reloaded my rockets, went back, and then there was 2 AA Maxes, and they just completely destroyed me. Well, I can't say what I want to say because my wife's in the room, but they destroyed me, let's just say that.
Right, I'd have to agree. They're not useless at all. I think that they're not secondary or anything. I mean, they're still really useful because, for example, say you're assaulting a position, maybe you don't have sky guards or whatever, and you need to, there's air around. It's not like I sit there going, oh man, I wish I could pull a sky guard. I don't think that's at all. I just run straight over to a Sunderer, pull out the bursters, and, I'll start going to town on them. That's what we do still. Yes, the weapons aren't quite as strong and they're not as accurate, which is probably the biggest kicker in it, but it's not enough to say, well, it's now the secondary role and it sits in the back seat. It is still a prominent force.
Yeah, I think it's completely situational. I mean, now it's adding a new level of metagame to the game, which just makes tanks more important, make tank spawns more important. To have an AA, and you have to take care of AA, but you still can pull in situations AA maxes. I think it's a good thing that they changed it that way, because before that nobody used sky guards, and now you can use everything. I mean, an AMX you can pull at every terminal. You can pull in every infantry terminal. You can pull an AMX, and for a sky guard you still need a base where you can spawn tanks. So it's a completely good change, and both of them are situational. It depends on how you move out, how you're organized, and you can pick the right gear to encounter the air.
Well, the right gear, obviously, for the job is always needed. So, one gear that a lot of people are talking about when it comes to anti-air is the Striker for the TR. ALongStory, I think you can tell us something about that, and from you other two, you can probably tell us some stories of how the Strikers hit you. In the last episode, we had the guys from 2CA here who basically laughed at the Striker and said it is completely useless. Now, I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Me speaking first?
You
yeah, I don't know what they believe the Striker has. I think the Striker in groups is devastating, or in groups of 2 or 3 even. I've flown Vanu on this server and on other servers, NC. If you haven't got your flares enabled and you fly over a group of TR, you basically die. Unless you've got something to hide behind and hope that the Striker missiles don't hit you, you die. But I don't think it's just a Striker, because honestly, personally, I've seen a lot more VS now pulling, not what they're called on the VS side, but the ground
Nemesis.
Basically. Yeah, the Nemesis, pulling the Nemesis, and that, seriously, previously on my Liberator, we used to run Turbo, and we didn't used to run flares at all, and now on the Lib, I've had to swap over to flares, because just the amount of Nemesis are being fired at us, it takes down half our health. You fire flares, and if you're not out there before the second wave of lock-ons get you, then you lose like half your health. So I can only imagine how much pain the Strikers can cause. So I don't think they're necessarily OP, but I think their range needs to be reduced to something like 500 meters. Maybe, I don't know. I want to see what SOE do. I think they're probably going to break everything, because it's their approach. They either make something too overpowered or too weak. They don't seem to hit the right point, but we'll see what they do.
I think they never can hit the right point, because people will always argue. There is no right point. There will be people unhappy with it. There will people think it's OP. People think it's underpowered. I think everything in the game is there for a specific reason. To comment what Ace Combined Arms, Second Combined Arms said. Everything in the game is for a specific reason. Every gun, every tool, you just have to find the right situation to use it. And then I think this game is pretty well balanced. I mean, I don't see that there's a particular problem with the Striker. It's powerful, but yeah, I mean, our Phoenix is powerful in some situations as well. And I would never want to change with a striker in some situations. So I don't see a real problem.
Well, this is from my perspective. The words, I'm not going to call it OP, I'd call it a ridiculous launcher, personally. The thing, what's ridiculous about it is it kind of, don't get me wrong, but I think the Annihilator became totally obsolete on the TR, and I think a lot of the specific rocket launchers became quite obsolete. I'm not talking, your Standard and the Decimator still have their place, obviously, but it replaced the lock-on launchers, because it is a fantastic piece of kit, where I never understood why people said it was so rubbish. Maybe the way they've implemented it isn't correct. I mean, there are some things that are quite buggy with it. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but I've caught missiles which have passed through terrain. I've also caught missiles that if you fire a flare, it will get rid of the first strike, but the other 4 missiles afterwards will continue to hit your aircraft. There were buggy things like that, which was very, very frustrating. I still think the Striker is exceptionally effective, as, the Striker squads, when they're out in force, they are exceptionally tough, and they're very difficult to counter, actually, because they lock on to absolutely everything. This is another thing which is more of a bug, but I have a problem. I don't hear the initial lock. I just hear when it's fully locked on my vehicle and I suddenly have a load of missiles piling at me. That's more of a bug, and these are problems with the Striker. That seems to be only occurring with the Striker. You get things like that. I've heard of my members saying they hear the initial beeping, when it's starting to lock, but they've never heard when the missiles have been fired, the static beep. So, it's little things like that which is, it's not making the Striker, it's making the Striker stronger than it should be, simply because of some little faults like that.
I think the problem is that they created a lock-on launcher for the TR side. They should have been more creative and came out with a new idea. I think that's the problem, because you can directly compare it to the other lock-on launchers. The NC Phoenix, you can't compare with any other rocket launcher because it's completely unique, and the VS one in a way as well with the charging up thing. So I think this is just a problem that they came up with a lock-on launcher which was already there in some other forms. And of course, problems with the game with bugs and stuff like that, yeah. But that's always the case.
It does stem back to the whole Planetside 1 thing, because they want to bring back the traditional things, but try and give them new things. But because the TR always had the lock-on rocket launcher, the Striker, I always wondered what they were going to do with that, because they already have lock-ons in the game where they didn't have that before, where obviously the Lancer was still more of an anti-tank rifle, and then obviously you've got the camera-guided Phoenix. You don't have other things like that, where you've already got flavours just like the lock-on launchers already there, so...
Now, in the upcoming ESF update, they are talking about actually changing all of the lock-on launchers in the game to make it so that they're not fire and forget anymore, but you actually have to keep aiming at you actually have to track, and the closer your target is, the faster it locks on, meaning that if you're, let's say 10 meters from an enemy ESF for whatever reason, it'll pretty much lock on instantly. How's that going to change? How's that going to change the game? Blitzkrieg.
I think that will actually breathe some life into the lock-on launchers. I don't really use the lock-on launchers personally. Because I have a Lancer and I prefer my Lancer and my Decimator. And I tried to use my Annihilator the other day, and I just put it back down again, because I go, well, you know what, this is very annoying to use, because normally the aircraft, when they're so close, they don't lock properly. They take ages to lock. And, by the time that they do, they've either passed over you and you've lost your lock, or they've already gone away out of your range. So I find they're a bit annoying. In the terms of the closer they are, the lock you on faster, I think that's quite a good way to maybe make them a bit more useful in closer ranges, because closer ranges, the bursters and the Sky-God absolutely mince compared to the lock-ons. Lock-ons have their... they're far more useful at a medium range, but have to hold on to the lock. I mean, we'll have to see how that plays out. It depends how big the reticule is that you have to hover over. Will it just dive into the ground, or will it, how? It's just how they implement it. We'll have to see.
I think they're going to break it. I think they always seem to break stuff. I don't understand the desire to change it so heavily again. I know there are issues with strikers, but I think there are other solutions rather than do this elaborate system where we'll have to track stuff. It's going to make, I don't know, it's just going to change the weapon completely once again, and it's going to affect one faction much more than the other. TR primarily got this 1000 certs, 750 whatever it is SC weapon, and it's primarily going to affect TR because it's our main sort of anti-tank, anti-air weapon, whereas it's not going to have really any effect on NC or VS. So I'm very reticent about it.
It has a strong effect on other factions as well. I mean, we're using lock-on launches.
Not primarily, are you, though? Not at all. Primarily, if you ask 100 heavies on NC and VS what they've got, they're not going to say, 90% of them are not going to be strike or lock-ons, are they? It's maybe 50%, if that.
In our outfit, yes. I mean, I can't speak for other outfits, but I mean, it's an outfit policy, how you run it. I mean, I would expect a heavy player who plays heavy in my squad to have multiple rocket launcher because it's kind of his special ability, and he has to have a variety he can equip according to the situation.
I don't necessarily mean, but we run ours primarily, whereas most NC and VS don't seem to run lock-ons primarily. As only if there's a lot of air, they'll go back, they'll swap, they'll pull a lock-on, and the first pass, second pass, you'll notice there's not many lock-ons. The third time you go around, you're constantly getting locked, you bust flares, 5 seconds later you're locked on again. You notice the gradual progression, whereas when you're playing VS, NC, as soon as you fly over TR, you've got lock-ons locking on, you've got strikers locking onto you, you bust flares, you have to wait for your flares to build back up before you can go back over the territory, because you know that there are going to be strikers sat there waiting for you to come back. Where it's not necessarily the same. You don't run striker, you don't run a lock-on primarily as your main launcher, whereas most of TR do. Probably 50-60% of TR run a lock-on.
But this creates something that I'm not sure if NC have anything to say upon this, but I mean, I've noticed it, especially from my outfit, and even people from other outfits started calling the TR the anti-air faction, simply because their anti-air is absolutely devastating. You have the strikers. I mean, the other day we were I was doing a Shredder Liberator with a friend of mine. Couldn't get close to the TR because as soon as we did, we were either locked onto pieces or we were cut to pieces by Vulcans. So you have some amazingly strong anti-air power, and I can see what your concern that if this change towards your lock-on goes wonky, you lose half of your anti-air power.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't necessarily disagree that there should be some changes to it. I think it should be to range, not some way which haven't been tried before. I wish they would trial something and say, okay, we'll do it on the other lock-ons, or we'll do it on Annihilators first, and give us your feedback. But it just seems like they do these really big, game-changing changes, and then it leaves factions either totally overpopped or spitting venom for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I mean, we had a Phoenix, which was a one-shot infantry kill, and then they lowered the damage on infantry. So, I mean, there we got the same phenomenon like you had. All of us ran Phoenix, and we just sniped infantry with the Phoenix.
But how long was the update? That was broken, wasn't it? When
2 weeks? No, it wasn't broken.
It was 3 days. It was. How can it not be broken to bring in a rocket launcher which can snipe from 300 meters away? How is that not broken into infantry?
A rocket launcher usually in the game is a one-shot kill against infantry. So
not 300 meters, though, is it? And it's not guided.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of OP. I mean, it was maybe a bad decision from the design, and then they realized it quick. But I mean, all of us, we bought the Phoenix, and now we could say, oh, Phoenix are useless, they're not one-shot infantry kits anymore.
Yeah, but if you look back on the same day that it was released, there was a massive Twitter thing, and Higby said, okay, we admit we're going to be making updates to the Phoenix. That was the same, like within about 24 hours, they'd already posted that they're going to be adjusting but you didn't buy the strike. By the way, the Phoenix is not supposed to be an anti-infantry weapon, is it? The same way the Striker is not supposed to be. All the other weapons are not anti-infantry. When you buy a rocket launcher, it's supposed to be anti-vehicle or anti-air.
Yes. I mean, it was a side effect of it that it was used. I mean, it's a strong anti-vehicle weapon as well. So,
it was broke though, wasn't it? That's what I was trying to get at. It's not as if they let it run for 6 months and then turn around and say it's broke. They let Strikers run for 6 months, let all of TR buy them, and then now they're going to make some massive game-changing adjustments to them, which I don't necessarily say are wrong. I haven't seen the changes, and I don't know how the changes will play out. They might be fine, but I'd rather they did something incremental and just do a small change to get it down to a level. You know, it's my fear that they're going to break something once again and then push a new weapon upon us and say, okay, the same way with Annihilators. Annihilators were useful at the beginning, then they made them completely useless, so you had to buy the Grounder if you wanted an anti-air weapon or the other anti-tank lock-on, and then they brought the Striker in, which made pretty much everything. You bought the 3 guns, the 3 lock-ons that you bought before for TR were just completely useless in the face of the Striker.
Yeah, well, I mean, what they could do, I mean, this is something that always annoys me, that what SOE do. They want to make some changes, and they throw in too many changes, where you sit there thinking, well, actually, if you just put in the one, and then if that isn't enough, then think about doing this. You know, because what they could do is, for example, they could bring in the whole faster locking thing, because this is something that might breathe a bit more life into the old lock-ons. Well, maybe they could only do it with a couple of launchers, like you said, and then see how that affects it, you know, if that's too strong, too weak, before they consider going, well, it's too strong, but what we could do is now we could bring in the whole, you know, the laser-guided system. They could do that, but putting in too many changes, as you state, might totally break the launchers.
And that's what I find, you get a lot of backlash against SOE for doing that. I just think their development policy is a bit hit and miss. They seem to, every game they either bring out something which breaks it a bit further, or they bring out something which is too overpowered, or they nerf something too far, and then they spend another 2 or 3 updates just changing it and tweaking it again, which I wish they just start off with softer updates, and then if they notice it really does need a buff, then do it like 2 or 3 updates down the line, but not these massive changes which seem to destroy certain weapons or, you know, factions at one go.
The other problem I've noticed, it's not just from an SOE point as well. I mean, the good thing is, as we all know, they respond to things very quickly, and they change things sometimes a bit too much, but I mean, at least they're on it, you know, they're listening. And this might be a slight problem, because you have the test server, and I don't know how many of the average players out there even know about the test server. And then obviously you get a good section, you know, a very large section that go on that test server, try the weapons, but then don't go onto the forum going, well, this weapon's broken, or this weapon is outperforming the others, or this isn't right, and so on. So you actually have a very large section. So there's a very small section that they know about the test server, they try everything, and then they report back to the forums with their opinions and what they think should be happening. Where you've just this is the problem, because they're obviously they're basing some of these changes on the very tiny section that actually go on the test server. So when these go live, you actually find out that this tiny section are completely wrong, and the vast majority go, well, you know what, this is shit. You know, that's the problem. So I think they need to test it a bit more themselves as well.
But saying that, there was, like with the Zoe, the original Zoe Max, you know, last batch before the nerf, as it was, loads of people on the test server. There was loads of feedback, multi-faction feedback. Honestly, it wasn't mainly from VS, it was TR and NC Outlets that said this is just too strong. And they did videos of how strong it was, comparisons of how strong it was, how it, you know, it just annihilates everything in its path. And they posted that, sent that videos to SOE. They were posted, I think even Reddit had posts of it, and SOE just didn't pay any notice. They just you know, delivered the Zoe as it was. It was game changing for that whole patch era, if that makes sense.
I can understand that. I mean, in regards to Zoe, I mean, this comes on two fronts, because it was also, you had what you could also say a placebo effect. Because it wasn't just, solid, the Zoe was so overpowered you couldn't deal with it. It wasn't just the Zoe. The thing that was occurring was everyone heard about, you get a few people playing it and they all go, oh, this is really nice. And then more people, they tell all their friends and they go, oh, yeah, let's all play it. And because obviously the VS Max was perceived as being the weakest and really terrible. I play VS Max and I have a lot of certs put into it way before Zoe was even spoken about. And I knew for a fact that the VS Max was fine. I could play it and I could, with enough support, and, because that's how a Max is supposed to be done, with support, I could really lay down the power on the TR and the NC, providing I keep out the range of those shotguns. And I felt that the TR and the VS Maxes were very, very closely linked. But obviously, because most people say, oh, they're rubbish, mainly because they got too close to a Scatter Max and then got shotgunned in the face to pieces, so they always thought they were rubbish. But as soon as they all heard, oh, well, the VS Max is so super, you had so many people jumping into the VS Max, it actually gave the look that the Zoe was even stronger than it really was. Because it wasn't just the Zoe, it was just the sheer amount of VS Maxes there. So people obviously, I didn't buy Zoe straight away because I was quite ambiguous about it. I wasn't too sure about it from the start. And I was in my VS Max. I killed quite a few guys. I was receiving tells from people going, "Oh well, Zoe's OP," and I just said, "Well, I don't have Zoe. I'm just using a standard Max," and they didn't seem to believe me. And it's just simply because they just see all the Max to go, oh, well, he must have Zoe. And then obviously the other two factions, whenever they see a VS Max, they just they hear and they see how strong they are. They just assume that they're all using Zoe, when it's actually just a sheer volume.
I think
a quick interlude before we continue this discussion. In the next few minutes, I'm going to ask some questions from listeners. So to all the listeners out there, if you want to ask a question, please write it in the IP radio chat, and then I'll ask our guests whatever you want to know. Please continue.
I think this. I don't like this whole types of discussion always, because I think it's always the completely wrong approach. Of course, there's some balance issues, but you have to balance the game with 3 different factions. If it were 2 factions, you just reskin the things and make them identical. Besides that, it's easier to balance. I think the problem is always that people complain too much about things instead of having a look at it, adapt to the situation, come up with tactics to encounter it, and then make the, maybe if they're OP, even if they're OP, you can make it neglectable with playing smarter. I don't like this whole blaming on overpower and stuff like that. I mean, it's on you. You have to adapt to the situation. SOE is presenting you a game. You can give feedback. They listen to you. Maybe not. But in the end, you have to adapt to the situation. And the Zoe Max suits, then just let them come once they were OP. Let them come through a doorway, concuss the first one so they get her up nice and tight. Throw anti-vehicle grenades afterwards and all that. Problem solved.
That wasn't the case though, was it? Because literally the biolabs were full of Zoe Maxes. It wasn't just like they could just zoom out of there, get reps, and they never go down. There was just no reason to play infantry when you had a Zoe Max. They ran faster and everything else. It was 100 XP to pull, 100 resources to pull one. It was just perma Zoes. At the moment, I don't think they're too bad. I think they're still a little bit strong, but that's my personal opinion. And I think other people in TR still think they're way too strong compared with Lockdown and even the shield. I'm never scared if I see an NC Max walking towards me with a shield. If I see a Zoe Max, I know that I need to get out of there. You don't have time to throw a concussion grenade if a Zoe Max ambushes you. Whereas if you see an NC Max walking around with his shield, you know you can get out of there easily. There's no way the NC Max is going to swap to his shotguns and hit you before you can get up his damage range. So I still think, they're strong, and it wasn't necessarily the fact that it was for a brief period. They broke it for like 2 weeks. Everywhere you went, there was a Zoe Max. Lots of people in TR just logged off during that period. So it's not little things they're changing. They're completely game changing. They really are, and there's like, they need to stop doing this, or they need to find a way that they can create balance better.
Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenon. That's why they changed the resources, I guess, because people pulled too much mech suits. The ratio of normal infantry and mech suits weren't matching anymore. But I mean, if you're not afraid of the NC shield, yeah, maybe. But mainly because this is a ability which benefits the squad in a decent team play environment. The Zoe mech suits is an option a loner can play, which is a mistake for the game in general. I think they're putting too much stuff into the game which can be played by loners instead of team players. They should have more tools in the game which requires multiple classes even to work together. And I think it's just the problem with the Zomax was that it was a tool every loner could use and could achieve something with. That's why they pull it so much. And the other tools like the shield or the lockdown is more interesting in a team environment.
That sounds pretty fine. So we've been in this discussion quite a bit, and we're slowly coming to the end of the show. And what do we do at the end of the show? We answer questions from the listeners. So you guys, I'm just gonna throw some of the questions that have been asked in chat at you. The first question comes from Yoshino from KOTV. And he says, do you guys think that the quality of the Woodman subreddit is going down, or at least is becoming a slightly more hostile environment?
Well, I'm just going to say this is from my perspective. I don't read 4chan.
Reddit.
I don't read Reddit.
Reddit.
And to be honest, I probably would go over to 4chan because at least I'd be entertained. But I don't read either of them. I occasionally nip on there to see if there's like any dev stuff that's gone on there, because they seem to post on Reddit than on their own forums for some stupid reason. But apart from that, no, I don't go to Reddit, so I can't comment on that. I apologise.
Dextro or ALongStory, you guys go to Reddit, or also no comments?
I'll let Dextro answer if he wants.
Yeah, I sometimes go to Reddit and read it. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I'm just reading if there's something interesting, but besides that, I really don't care much about it. I can't say much about it.
I think there's some specifically poisoned people who go on Reddit just to troll out of fact. I don't know if they're trolling or they're serious, but I don't think it's the whole of the subreddit, whatever it's called. But I think it's specifically 4 or 5 frequent posters who, I don't know, they seem bitter. I don't know what to say, but they seem to be TR based. I don't know. I haven't read many VS or NC responses which are trolling. Most of them seem to be TR, bitter people in TR. But no, just to pick up on Blitzkrieg's mention of Reddit, why they seem to post on Reddit is because I think Higby said it best. He doesn't mind. He posts on Reddit because he's happy on Reddit that he let people tell him to fuck off, go to hell, die in a fire. And that's fine. You can do that all they want, but they can't do that on the official Sony forums because there's legal ramifications of letting people keep saying that. Whereas in obviously in Reddit, they can let them say whatever they want. And he said he's happy to have that forum where people can be brutally honest and speak however they want.
Well, the question was specifically about the Woodman subreddit, so I think we kind of answered that.
Yeah.
We have quite a few questions. Let's jump directly into the next one, which is a bit of a humorous one. Dextro, this one is for you. It comes from a guy called McConnern, and he asks, does Dextro actually have any humor in him?
He's German, of course he doesn't.
No, I doesn't. And McConnell shouldn't know. I'm talking to him, well, not daily, but yeah, McConnell, you should know. Come on, honestly, you know.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. FFS Destro does not have any humor in him.
He's a robot, like all Germans.
He is a robot. Now we go. Another question from Yoshino. He asks, "This is for you, ALongStory." He says, "How is elementary beginnings?" Finding the challenge to lead a large numbers of TR players, are you having fun with it?
Yes, the reference we normally use is about as much fun as herding cats, so I'll leave it at that. No, we're picking up there's a lot of people joining. It's sort of fun when it works, and you save a biolab. In the last minute, you drop, a whole platoon, and we rush out and we save a biolab of people, just standing around doing nothing. But generally, it's it's difficult in the beginning because you've just got a lot of new players, and teaching them to hit deploy and move all the time is just repetitive. But
so all in all, a positive experience.
I never said that. I said it needs to be done.
It is an experience.
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay, it is an experience. Another question. I'm going to direct this one at Blitzkrieg, I guess, or actually no, at all of you. IP Fanatic says, so Magic or IP Magic has left the game. Shame or relief?
I guess joy for everyone else.
Like Dextro or ALongStory, would you say relief or?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of people who only play one shotgun weapon. So he's a great player. He does what he does very well. But anyone who plays one weapon over and over and over, in my opinion, is not using the full joy of the game. So yeah, I'll miss him. I'll miss hearing that boom boom Pandora dead IP Magic. I'll really miss that.
The good old Pandora.
He's my top killer as well. I think he's got 39 kills on me.
He said so. He said so on the forums.
Yeah, yes. And I think the last time he killed me, I remember I was in a match as well. I had like 10 guys around me, and guess who kills me? 1%.
It just had to be Magic,
just had
of course.
to be. And then the next day, I quit.
Then we have another question. This is towards our NC and TR guys. This is from Buddhistan, and he asks, is the NC or are the NC and TR experiencing a gradual rebalancing of population and alert wins as positively as the Vanu are? Dextro.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see balance out, and I think it's balancing lately. Yeah, but in the end, all I care about is having a nice fight. So sometimes I like going on the continent where another faction is dominating, because then I can ensure that we're getting swarmed and we're having a nice fight. So I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. ALongStory?
No, I think TR are getting ahead of themselves. I think they're enjoying it a bit too much and not realising that. I think I've noticed a big Vanu drop. It's only like 36%. Even like 38% Vanu at most alerts recently, instead of like 48. I think I've noticed the lack of Vanu is causing us to win, rather than great tactics on TR and NC's part.
So here's a question. I'm going to direct this towards Blitzkrieg. It's from a guy called Typical Terran Republic Player, and he asks, do you think that Sony should implement akimbo weapons? And how would that affect the heavy class?
He wants akimbo for solely the heavy, or for any other classes, or?
I think for other classes. And how would that affect the heavy? Let's say he wants it for the heavy. Let's say he wants
it for the heavy. I think that would not work at all, because having dual weapons for a heavy. I mean, they're already tough beasts as they are with that shield of theirs. In the terms of heavy, I would say no, and no to the ends of the earth. I mean,
would you give it to the light assault?
Light assault would probably be the only candidate, and it's a possibility. I mean, it might bring a bit more freshness to them. Maybe they could dual wield only SMGs kind of thing, because dual shotguns, I think I would rip my hair out. But it would have to be something like dual SMGs, but they're already very strong. They would have to bring in a form of penalty, maybe to accuracy, or something along those lines, or longer reloads because you've got both your hands full. They would have to bring in some kind of way to balance it, because let's face it, I mean, you look at the max suits, they bring out a hell of a lot of firepower, because we know if you only use, say, one anti-infantry weapon, max suits aren't that strong. If they were only using one anti-infantry weapon, it's when they have dual that they become quite fearsome. So putting that kind of power into a class that can fly, throw flashbangs, and has that amount of mobility would be quite strong. They would have to bring a lot of drawbacks to counter it.
Well, so basically akimbo weapons would have to be properly balanced.
Yes, like everything.
Okay. Let's go with another question from someone called More Sugar, please. He asks, is there really a fourth faction? And if so, how would you deal with it? A long story.
I think, for example, Sugar, I think he's probably just an NC troll, probably from FFS, just trolling us. I wouldn't say who he is, but he sounds pretty lame if you ask me. No, I don't think there's a problem with fourth faction. I think if there are people swapping over at the beginning of alerts to ensure that they get XP, then yeah, there is a problem. But Sony can tell from the stats basically who is logging out and who's logging in. They can see, for themselves if there is a fourth faction problem. If there is, I think it just basically should be you can't swap accounts during an alert. Basically, you should just you get the 15 minutes warning prior to an alert. You choose that faction and you stay on that faction for the whole alert. You can't relog in another faction. So I don't know if Sony knows if there's a problem or not based on the stats of people logging out and logging in mid-fight.
Here's one I'm going to throw at Dextro. McConnern, again, would like to ask, what is your outfit standing on streaming tactical things, and what are your rules for it?
He knows about it because he's in our outfit, so...
Okay, well then you were the wrong person to ask. You were the wrong person to ask. Then I'm just throwing it at all of you guys.
And according to More Sugar, please, I only talk shit, so I'm probably not the wrong, but a long story, you should remember he's in your outfit.
But yeah, anyway, so what are your outfits, all of your outfits, what is your stance on streaming what your outfit is doing tactically and so on? Do you have any rules there, Blitzkrieg?
Well, I mean, we have a couple of guys that stream. I'm not too bothered about it. It's a bit of advertisement for the outfit, to be honest. But I'm not too fussed. I'd probably suggest that if any of my guys are listening and they want to know about streaming, maybe turn the sound off from our TeamSpeak. Yeah, that would. I think that would, as long as people can't hear our TeamSpeak, maybe I'm pretty cool with that. The only things that I do tend to keep under my wing are my events a little bit, which I'm sure you know about, Kleiker, but the others, I do events, but I try not to announce them to everyone. They go to who I invite.
So in Elementary, can we see Elementary tactical streams going on where we can watch your tactics?
I did stream a bit. I streamed mainly because people kept saying I was cheating also. So, but outside of that, not really. I'm not sure the interest is there. If there was the interest there, then yeah, maybe. But I'm not sure. I ran a stream when I would get 1 or 2 viewers, and I tell people I was running the stream, so I think people would just rather play the game. It's not like, the Enclave where they would only have a platoon, and Enclave was pretty, serious about the people they had in their outfit, and not everyone could actually join and participate, so no, I don't think we'd be doing that.
In general, to come back to answer it in general, we don't mind people streaming as long as it's not hurting our reputation. If there's some trash talk going on, other people may take offense in it. We don't want to have it on the stream, but besides that, they can stream mumble, unless we tell them not to. We got nothing to hide. They can stream.
Sounds pretty good.
And we got free streamers who regularly stream.
Okay, we've got one last question, which I'm going to ask each one of you. This is not actually from the chat, but this is something that a friend of mine has just sent to me, so I'm going to ask you. If you were put in charge of KOTV for 1 day, what would you do? Let's start with a long story and go for everyone else.
As in trolley, or we could actually do something serious with them?
You are in charge of KOTV. Every single member will listen to what you say for 1 day.
I would, for one alert, I'd relog TR and see how VS coped, and then I'd relog NC for the next alert and see how they coped with just the sheer organisation and numbers against, VS against, playing the different factions, as it were. That's what I would do.
Okay. And Dextro, what will you do 1 day in charge of KOTV?
Tough question. I would have some fun with them, and then quickly realize that I'm probably better off in the FFS.
No grand plans you would do with a massive
What can you do in one day with them? I mean, you can see how they work and have fun with them. I mean, what great plans do you want to do in one day with them?
Okay, and Blitzkrieg. You're in charge of KOTV for one day.
Apart from making them obviously a better outfit, I would probably banish Chicken Curries to a dungeon and he would never return. And I might try and recreate the video from Disney with all the lemmings jumping off cliffs.
Just a lot of cliffs. All right, people. And that was the last listener question we're taking for today, and this is also the end for this Woodman Live episode. Thank you all very, very much for joining me here. ALongStory, Dextro, Blitzkrieg, thank you very much for being here and getting a good discussion going on about quite a few topics that not only impact our server, but also the game. And of course, thanks everyone for listening, and for everyone who's going to listen to the recording. My name is Kleika, and this was Woodman Live. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.